So welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about tips and questions for QA interviews, and I'm really excited because I compiled these all myself from experience that I've had in my interviews that I've had myself. So, this is actually quite fun to remember, and, let's get into it, right? So guys, let's start off with the tips, and to some of you, these may seem obvious, but I've seen some cases where these would have been handy in like my previous jobs. So that's why I'm naming them as well. So first tip is actually, in order to get for you the interview, you have to get a CV. So my first tips are actually for the CV. And in this case, what I would do and how I would create my CVs is, first of all, make them very simple and straightforward. Make points very obvious, like in your face, sort of obvious. Bold out the places you want the eyes to go to. That's what I would do. That's literally what I have done in all of my CVs. I would bold out languages I've used, projects, stuff like that. I would bold keywords that I would like to get seen. Make it easy for the reviewer to actually want to see it. I had a guy in Reddit send me his CV. And honestly, I didn't want to review it because it had just this much text. It's very hard to really see any detail, any important detail in a block of text like this. Make it easy to overview, easy to follow, and bold out stuff, or, make stuff you want to get noticeable. I will add some examples here. So, CVs that I would be using. It's not necessarily that they would get better results, but statistically, I've had great results with CVs very, very similar to something like this or more of something like that. So yeah, these are some examples that I would maybe go by and then adjust to me. And I would definitely like to keep it as simple as these examples I've shown you. And then number 3 is actually to show your CV to another person. And this is also based on the same Reddit guy. So he thought his CV was great. He had sent it out to many companies. And when he sent it to me, I was like, listen, this does not work. Take this CV as an example and rebuild it entirely, because it's not great. So to you, it may look great. To others, it seems like, really? So my third point is here to really give it to another person for you to get feedback. Is it actually good? And believe me, this can help you a lot. So yeah, let's jump to the interview tips. And in this case, my interview tip number 1 is, so reread the job application and keep in mind what you actually signed up for and what you have scheduled the call for. Because first of all, you can also think of questions to later ask about the position, and also to know what to prepare for. This also moves us to the next tip. The next tip is come prepared to the interview. And this may seem very obvious to some of you guys, but you would be surprised how many people don't come prepared. So definitely, please come prepared. And I'm actually gonna link resources down below, which I would suggest for you to watch before interviews if you have not used testing definitions and all of this in a while and don't remember the basics, or maybe you've never knew the basics before this. So I would definitely suggest for you guys to watch it, because next you will also build your confidence, which will really show in the interview, because you will be confident of the stuff that you are talking about. And when you will be asked specific technical questions, you'll be able to answer. So yeah, these resources below are great. I've used them myself for some previous interviews I had. And I was so confident in the interviews that I just nailed them. And obviously I nailed them. But yes, definitely come prepared, guys. Number 4 is actually to create a test example, which you can literally find online. Any test example you can imagine. You can even take this pen for an example and write a test example about. Now, how I would do it is actually write all the testing methods possible for this pen to be executed with. And why would I do it? Once again, it will build your confidence but when you get asked to do technical task, you'll be able to do it very systematically. Okay, so load testing, functional testing, non-functional testing, so on. So you would be able to, test this pen using all the methods. Let's just leave it at that. And you could also showcase then your knowledge by using them. So this is exactly what I would do. I would write down all the testing methods and how I would basically go over how I test this pen. So once the interview came, I would just, go point by point because I already knew what I'm talking about and, refreshed my memory of all of the definitions. Definitely create test example. It's very simple, straightforward, and believe me, it can bring you steps closer. Number 5, my last tip here is very basic as well, but you should share enthusiasm in your interviews about QA. In any area of the QA that you love, just share that enthusiasm because, it sort of bleeds. Is bleed the correct word? I don't think so. It's sort of visible when a person is very enthusiastic about building this great product together with the team. So I would definitely share my enthusiasm and stuff that I actually love about QA, even though nobody asked, maybe I would share a sentence or two of what I actually love, or, it just shows in the interviews. And I think it's very visible. And QA is huge. So there must be some parts that you love and you would like to emphasize. So do that in your interviews. Believe me, a lot of people actually may share the same, points and values. So it would be maybe, spark a great discussion. These are my tips. And yes, I do know that for some of you, it's harder to get in the interview part. That's why I started with the CV, because that is literally your starting point. And I hope these tips help. So let's move on to the questions part, which is actually my favorite. And these are questions that I've compiled over the years that I've had. And yeah, these are based on my experience. And every experience is different. So if you would like to see different questions, you can Google them. There's a bunch of them. Honestly, every company has very different questions that they would like to ask. Some ask very, how can I put it, questions that make you not want to work there, and questions that do want to make you work there. I don't know how to categorize it. Anyways, let's start off with point number 1. Yeah, the first question is, tell us about your experience and yourself. So here you can name the projects you worked on and the experience you've gained. What was fun in the project? What skills did you gain? Or what are the opportunities to grow even more further on? And then what testing solutions you provided or built, like regression tests and so on. You can go on and on about these topics and expand based on your experience. So number 2 is actually, how did you manage to solve this and this problem in this scenario? This is a very common question as well, and I get asked that a bunch. And usually I circle back to my experience and I'm like, okay, I didn't have maybe that specific problem, but I had similar one, and this is what I did to solve it. And I always talk about solution. Nobody wants to hear problems. Everyone wants to hear solutions. This is what I would usually also do. Just circle back to my experience and talk about how I handled it in this scenario. And you can always sort of find something very similar or maybe the exact same case that you just got asked, and you can always answer it honestly. Honesty is the best policy, right? And this is actually very great that you have also experience that you could circle back to. If you do, just try to find something similar to, because everyone wants to hear also experience-based knowledge. And always I circle back to my experience, because that is a certain thing that I had and I, honestly could answer it. Okay, so tip number 3 is very, very typical questions, guys, and I'm sorry, but these are... So I'm just gonna name all of them that I usually get asked. So what is test case, test plan, regression testing, white box testing, black box testing, functional testing, non-functional testing? All of them you can get asked definitions of. But if you followed my tip number 2 that I named previously and you watched the video below that I linked, you are able to answer all of these. Even if it's been a while since you read these definitions, be prepared. This is very common for companies to ask you these questions, these definitions. So if you can answer any of these questions based on your experience, I think it's better because you are showing how much experience you actually have and how knowledgeable you are. And also, still, if you follow my tip number 2 and refresh all of these, you should be confident enough in your ability to answer any of these questions, really. So there's a few more, guys, unfortunately. Some questions that you still will get asked, so I'm just gonna name them. What does your day-to-day tasks look like? Once again, circles back to your experience. Just use that for references. Then, what tools have you used for test management or backtracking? Then what are the different types of software testing methods? This you could answer if you did your example test. In this case, you would know all of them and could name them and even create an example based on them. So yeah, use my tips, guys. Then the last question is like, what is agile or waterfall? If you answered any of these previous questions easily with confidence based on experience, they will get cut short. Usually when the interview is not going that great, you can get asked more and more and more questions. And yeah, that's why you should always prepare for the interviews. So they will be quick and easy for both sides, guys. The last question that I would usually get is also, what are you missing in your current company that, makes you come here to the interview today? And usually prepare for this question and not answer any silly things. You should definitely be honest as well, what you're looking for, because it's also very important for you to match up to the employer and the other way around. So it would be a win-win for both of you. So do take that in mind. And yeah. So yeah, guys, these are my tips and tricks and questions, what I would go about in the interviews. And, as last one, I would like to tell you a little story of the worst interview that I had, actually, because I think it's a great lesson to any of you, really. So I was sort of talked into applying for this place. Now I was sort of looking for another place because I wasn't really where I should be at the time. Based on my experience, one day I wake up, I feel like I'm coming down with something, and I'm starting my work. I'm working, and 10 minutes before, I get a calendar reminder that I have an interview, and I'm like, I did not expect this, and obviously I wasn't feeling that great, and I definitely was not prepared. And since I also didn't sort of want even to go work there, I was like, let's just talk. But the interview started off with asking me these definitions. What is a 404 error? And what does it mean? What is a 500 error? Questions like these. And honestly, by the time the interview sort of finished, I really did not want to work there, even just a little, because I had asked questions that did not really show my knowledge or my experience based on asking me what is a 404 error, guys. So yeah, obviously it's also sort of my bad, because I was not prepared, and that's on me. Obviously I sort of misscheduled something and missed it. Obviously me and the company were not aligned anyways, so sometimes that happens, and that's okay. Later on, you will find a company that, you align with, and it's a win-win for both of you. So look for that in any company that you apply for, not because of a job. You'll be fine. Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm sort of losing it today. I hope this sort of makes sense, and I'm gonna try to make it as easily overviewable as possible. Is that even a word? I'm not really sure. Okay, guys, so yeah, that's it for this video. I hope these tips and tricks helped you, and yeah, I'll see you next time. See ya!